Welcome to BetterBooks with Kathy Houston. For this training section, we're going to start discussing the assets. Again, assets are our bank accounts, any money that's owed to us, any fixed assets such as equipment, building, vehicles, etc. The most important account on your books is your bank account. The majority of the transactions on our financials goes through our bank account. So at this time, I want you to pull up your financials in your software and print your balance sheet and income statement for your last quarter or year. Let's discuss the importance of bank reconciliations. You must reconcile your bank. Why? Reconciling your bank will allow you to catch missing items and/or duplications. If you have not reconciled your bank, stop right here, go back and reconcile through your balance sheet date. Do not attempt to clean up any other accounts on your balance sheet until the bank is reconciled. Grab your bank reconciliation report that matches your balance sheet date, such as if your balance sheet date is 12/31/2021, grab your December 2021 bank reconciliation report. What is a bank reconciliation? During the bank reconciliation process, you are checking off the credits that are on the bank statement and the debits. This keeps your books in balance with items that have been deposited and withdrawn from your bank. Let's look at these two items so that you can understand how the bank reconciliation works. The one on the left is your bank statement that shows your previous balance, credit and debits, and the ending balance. The reconciliation summary on the right shows the same four numbers. This keeps your books balanced to your bank account. This is a look at the bottom part of the summary report. It shows uncleared transactions. This is the section that we want to focus on. We're not really focused on the uncleared transactions after the statement date, although you will want to check those for any potential date errors. But this uncleared transactions as of the statement date is where you want to double check these transactions to make sure there are not any duplicate checks and deposits. To do that, you will have to look at the detail report that shows all of the detail of the uncleared transactions. This is the part of the detail report that shows you more information on those uncleared checks and deposits. And as you can see on this one, this is an example of a duplication. This is where you will catch stale checks, which are checks that have not been cashed or been lost in the mail. But more importantly, this is where you'll catch any duplications. One of the disadvantages of linking your bank account in your accounting software is that a lot of times it can create duplications. So this is where you're going to catch those. We're really going to focus on the uncleared checks and payments first to discuss how to correct these, and then we'll discuss the uncleared deposits. For checks, you can just delete them if they're duplications as long as they are in the current year, meaning that you are not deleting a transaction that has already been reported on a previous tax return. And why is that important? It's important because it will put your books out of balance for the previous year, and you've already paid tax on the previous year's tax return. Any changes we make during the cleanup need to be made in the current year so that you're getting credit for any income previously reported that you've already paid tax on, and or any expenses that have previously been reported. If the transaction is from a previous year, you will have to use this general journal entry to correct it. You're going to date it in the current year. Again, you cannot change or delete a transaction in the previous year because you've already filed your tax return and paid taxes based on the income and expenses during that year. So we make the adjustment in the current year to take care of any income or expenses that were previously over or understated. This general journal entry is debiting your bank account and crediting the original expense account. Once you post the general journal entry, you will have to reconcile the bank to click and clear the original transaction and the general journal entry so that the general journal entry clears against the stale check. Once you've created the general journal entry for the stale or duplicated check, then you can go to your bank reconciliation, click the stale check in the general journal entry and clear it out. This will remove it from future bank reconciliations and reports. You can clear it out as a separate reconciliation just like this, dated in the current month, and make the beginning and the ending balance the same. Or you can wait until your next month's bank reconciliation and click both of them with your regular bank reconciliation. These two transactions clear each other out, so it should not change your ending bank balance on your bank reconciliation total. What if there are uncleared deposits? There are two reasons to have uncleared deposits. One, the deposit was posted in the current month but deposited in the following month. This happens a lot on the last day of the month. You might post the payments as of 1/31 but not actually make the deposit until the following day. The other reason is that the deposit is a duplication. If the deposit cleared out the following month, there's no need to do anything. But if the deposit had the wrong date, you can simply open up the deposit and change the date. If the deposit is a duplicate, it can be fixed one of two ways. If it is not attached to an invoice, it can simply be deleted. If it is attached to an invoice, you have to follow the directions in the accounts receivable section in order to delete it properly. This is an example of an uncleared deposit. Based on the date of the deposit, it is probably not a date issue. So if I go back to my bank register, I can look for a similar deposit around the same date. If this is a mistake or a duplication, I can delete it as long as it is not attached to an invoice. If it is attached to an invoice, I need to review the accounts receivable section to learn how to delete it correctly. But what does that mean? So if you create invoices in your software and receive payments against the invoices, you cannot merely delete the deposit because it will reverse the payment made against the invoice. But if you post deposits without receiving payments against an invoice, you can delete the duplicate deposit without affecting another part of your books. Bank transfers are a common error we see where transfers are posted as deposits or expenses instead of transfers. This can lead to mistakes and posting deposits as income instead of transfers. A transfer between banks should not affect the income statement. Bank transfers can be added two different ways: adding the transaction manually or matching the transfer with the bank feed. To add the transaction manually, you'll find your New Transaction button, then select Transfer. If you have desktop software instead of online, it will be under Banking and may be called Bank Transfer. Then you're going to click the drop-down menu to select the Transfer Funds From and Transfer Funds To select the banks. If you match the transfer with the bank feed, it should already be shown as a transfer and be a correct move of money from one bank to another. The next screen will show you an example. This is an example of a correct transfer and an incorrect transfer. Use your software to make transfers easy. The Transfer Funds tool takes the guesswork out of the transfer. This is an example of a transfer from a shareholder's personal account into the business bank account using the Transfer Funds tool. Tips on importing and linking your bank. We covered this topic in detail under our Quick Start training section, but I want to discuss it here just briefly as well to help you become more efficient with your books. Linking your bank allows you to save time and prevents data entry errors, but you can take it one step further and create rules. Creating rules enables you to code transactions without manually having to code them. Use this feature of your accounting software for transactions that will always be coded the same, such as anytime you see a debit card transaction for Office Depot, code that transaction to office supplies. Any transaction for Quick Trip is coded to gas, etc. Any recurring transaction can be used as a rule, whether it is an expense, income, or transfer. Congratulations on finishing the banking section. Like I said at the beginning, the majority of your transactions pass through this one account, so tackling it first is always important. By taking the steps to make sure your banks are reconciled and cleaned up, you are already cleaning up the rest of your books. Make sure that as you go forward, you are not deleting or changing any transactions that have already been reconciled with your bank. Congratulations!